In this video, we are going to talk about CSF, the cerebrospinal fluid. The cerebrospinal fluid is the fluid that surrounds the brain and the spinal cord. The major function of CSF is to protect the brain and spinal cord from injury. It acts as a cushion to protect them from injury. It also provides nutrients and it takes the waste products away from the brain. So these are the major functions of CSF. The CSF is produced in a series of chambers called the ventricles. Now you can see a rough sketch of the brain, and now I will try to explain that how the CSF is produced in the brain. I just mentioned that the CSF is produced in a series of chambers called the ventricles. So let's see where the ventricles are located in the brain. So let's do the labeling here. This blue structure is the lateral ventricle. This one is the third ventricle. And this is the fourth ventricle. Lateral ventricle, third ventricle, fourth ventricle. So this third ventricle and fourth ventricle is connected via a narrow passageway called the aqueduct. There is a disease called hydrocephalus. The most common cause of hydrocephalus is the obstruction in the flow of CSF in this aqueduct. The lowermost portion of the brain is the brainstem. So you can see that the aqueduct lies within the substance of the brainstem. So now we'll talk about that where the CSF is produced in the brain. CSF is mainly produced in the ventricles. You can see the lateral ventricle, the third ventricle, and the fourth ventricle. And this CSF is produced as a result of the specialized tissue called the choroid plexus. So let's see where the choroid plexus is. You can see this red structure. This is choroid plexus. This. So basically, CSF is not produced by the choroid plexus, but the CSF represent a filtrate of the blood only, and this filtration is performed by the highly specialized cells of this choroid plexus. Now you can see here, there is a rough sketch of villi, singular is villus. This villi is the functional unit of choroid plexus. It has the cuboidal cells. So this villi has a loop of tiny capillaries separated from the ventricles by cuboidal epithelial cell layer. So this is a cuboidal cell layer. To explain it even more, I have drawn here that you can see that these are the cuboidal cells, like this one, the cuboidal cells. And above the cuboidal cells, like this space, you can try to understand like this, is ventricles. And here is the capillary. So in this way, you can understand the production of CSF. So the choroid plexus, which has the functional unit villi, has a thick wall, which is a single wall and allows the transport of ions and molecules to and from the capillaries into the ventricles. So what's happening is these cuboidal cells of the villi, which is the functional unit of choroid plexus, are highly specialized cells, and are capable of generating a polarized electrical charge across their membranes, and this charge causes the sodium, chloride, and bicarb ions to migrate from the capillaries into the ventricles. Sodium, chloride, and bicarb ion. This ionic flow from the capillary into the ventricles creates an osmotic gradient which draws water molecules from the capillary plasma into the ventricles. So the CSF is mostly water with sodium, chloride, and bicarb ions, and some small amounts of other components like amino acids, proteins, and glucose thrown into the mixture. This filtrate contains no cells, but under normal circumstances, some small amount of the white cells, usually the monocytes, are introduced into the CSF in the ventricles directly from the vascular system once the CSF is in the ventricles. So now you can see that the CSF in the ventricles originates in the ventricles as a result of the filtration of plasma by the choroid plexus. It then flows and circulates throughout the ventricles. So now you can see here the CSF is produced in the ventricles, the lateral, the third, and the fourth, and now it will flow around the brain and the spinal cord. And this will be contained by a layer of meninges called as the arachnoid. There are some granulations in arachnoid. CSF then flows into the venous system from here, and hence it returns to the blood from where it was actually originated. 150 ml of CSF is present at any given moment in an adult's brain. This CSF is replaced every 6 hours in a day. So 600 ml of CSF is produced in a day by choroid plexus. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe PharmCept. Thank you.